Okay, so I want to clarify this real quick before I begin my review of Terra Formars Episode 2. Everything I'm about to say is just my opinion on this series, the anime of Terra Formars, okay? I don't mean to offend you. I don't mean to offend anyone that currently watches this video. If you think this is the best anime from this season and that nothing is going to beat it, I'm not putting you down for that. You have all rights to think that, okay? Now that I've said my bit right there, let's begin this review. For the most part, this episode of Terra Formars follows the pacing of the manga rather well. I will agree and I will admit that the pacing of episode 2 was rather fine. I have no problems whatsoever. I mean, there's a little things they skip, but nothing that bad. The main issue with this episode, actually, there's two big issues with this episode. The censorship and the character development. I want to get into the character development before I get into the censorship that happened at the end of this episode. The character development of this episode is lacking. Very, very much. Now you're wondering, like, wait, whoa, you just started off saying that, like, they didn't skip nothing in this episode, Chibi. Like, what are you talking about? As I said in my first review of Terra Formars, they skipped 7 chapters. They skipped 7 chapters, they skipped 2 arcs, and those 2 arcs technically were build-up development of the cockroaches, you know, build-up of that, and they skipped over that. They skipped over that since the very first episode, and so all the development for the main characters like Komachi has been completely rushed, and you probably don't give a shit about any characters. I'm going to be honest. Any anime-only watcher most likely will not care about any of the characters that were dying in this episode, because where's the development? I mean, should you really be connected to a character you really don't know? But I mean, it's creepy, yes, but I mean, technically you don't know none of these characters. Now, let me explain what is wrong with this, okay? Let's go into the deep factors. By Chapter 7, when they skipped it, remember, they skipped chapters at the first episode, and they already were rushing right into this series right out the gate. They skipped over the actual development intention build-up of the roaches. For instance, you know, you were supposed to already know about what that medicine was. That medicine that you saw the roaches destroying in this episode right at the end. You should have already known what that is. I'm not really going to spoil it. I'm not even going to talk about it. I'm just saying you should have already known a long time ago. You should have known a long time ago. And also, you should have known why the roaches were on that ship to begin with. You should have already known. And you should probably have known why the roaches seem to have some form of intelligence. But clearly, they're skipping over it. They literally skipped over all this development that you should have already known at this point by this episode, or by this part in the series, and so it's leaving it lackluster. Any person new into Terra Formars is like, what the fuck is going on? Because, I mean, there's just so much going on here. It looks cool and all, but they've skipped the character development, the actual development of the roaches that made them terrifying from the manga, why the manga is so recognized. They skipped that development. Now, the thing is, okay, I have an issue with the censors. I do have an issue with the censors. Now, as I said in my last review, BDs and DVDs clear up censors, so I can overlook censors. Usually, I can overlook it, okay? But Terra Formars is a type of series that is built upon its gore and violence. Now, Tokyo Ghoul, it had a lot of censors too, but it wasn't really built upon the violence as much. It was built more upon the psychological aspect of the series. Even though there was a lot of violent things in there, it wasn't to the terms as violent as Terra Formars. For instance, Terra Formars is about 10 times more violent than Tokyo Ghoul ever was. I'm willing to bet if they don't change their act of these censors by next episode, you're going to be seeing about 90% of the entire episode black screen, because all of the fighting in this episode that had barely any violence whatsoever, yes, there was a lot of violence, but the violence is just like that through the entire series. It's just like that. It's just that violent. It literally is. It doesn't tone down. It actually gets worse from this point onward with the violence with the roaches killing humans. So, yeah. That's the problem with the censors right now, because if it doesn't change, we're going to have 90% to 100% of the episode black screened. I'm not lying here. I'm not just, you know, over-exaggerating this. That really will happen. The censors are going to be that bad if they don't do something with the censors, because they're blacking out like 75 to 90% of the screen, and you can't even tell what the fuck is going on. You see people dying, of course. You hear sounds, but I mean, what's going on? I mean, like I saw one of the Chibi say in the community Facebook page, you might as well be listening to a fucking radio while you're watching this, because that's all you're getting. You're getting sound while they're fighting. It's upsetting. I am a manga reader. I have read the manga, so I know what is supposed to happen. I know what is going down. But with this episode, as if I was watching this as an anime-only watcher, I would be so unimmersed with this. Like, I would just be let down, because when I'm watching anime, I want to immerse myself into the atmosphere of the series, the themes, and all sorts of stuff like that. But when you're trying to watch this episode, you're having a nice, good, slow start, sloth start, you're seeing some character development a little bit with the crew members, and all of a sudden, when the roaches pop out, you see sensors all over the place, and it just throws you out of your comfort zone. It, flips your table. You're like, fuck you, you're no longer watching this anime. Like, you remember that you're watching a censored series. Like, you can't get immersed with watching Terra Formars because of the censors just pull you out of that. And that's the sad part about this. It's so sad that so many anime have to be censored nowadays because of regulations and laws. It really saddens me. It does. The big problem with this series right now is because it's being rushed and censored. It's honestly worse than Tokyo Ghoul ever was when it comes in terms of censoring and rushing. It really is. Tokyo Ghoul, at the very least, right out the gate, it didn't try to rush. It didn't. But with this, yeah. So, this is going to conclude my reviews of Terra Formars. I'm going to put this series on hold, on a back burner for now. The reason why is because I don't feel like ranting on this series and trash-talking it, because I love the manga, and I don't like putting a series down that I actually love to read. So, I'm just going to put this series on hold. I'm going to wait for the DVDs to come out, and then I will probably review them episode by the episode. Until then, this is going to conclude my reviews of Terra Formars the anime, because I just don't feel like ranting week after week and talking the bad about this show. So you all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.